But if the theory is correct, they know what caused it, okay? They know what caused it. And if you look at the data they have collected, these data are in strong support of the fact that there was some type of major outward pushing event that was at least like a Big Bang, and we can argue all day whether it was the finger of God that reached down and made it happen or not. What we can't argue is that the universe is expanding, that there's cosmic background radiation we can measure to go back in time and get a more accurate picture of the universe when it was younger. We can measure both the distance and speed at which planets are from each other and are moving away from each other, and direction. We can also measure the effects of gravity, including intense gravity like black holes or large suns, how they're affecting the way planets and asteroids and other things are moving, big giant gas plasma balls or whatever. We can measure all that. We're getting there on the science. So we know something like that happened. Nobody knows if it was the hand of God that did it or not. I'm leaning against that because I just see that in my logical mind, I see a God creating a universe and then taking good care of it. Maybe that's a terribly human characteristic to apply to a God we can't understand. But I can't imagine some being, even with infinite intelligence, saying, I'm going to make some shit happen right here, and then I'm going to just, let's let 6 million Jews get baked in the oven. Fuck it. Put them in the shower. Fuck it. You know, it doesn't jive with me. Because what I keep hearing about God from different religions is there's love and there's forgiveness. And I would have to imagine that if this God is what the traditional Christian Bible says he is, he has to be forgiving because he has a lot of forgiving to do of himself. I mean, would you start a farm with a bunch of horses and then just leave them? I'm not feeding you. Fucking feed yourselves. What are you, killing each other? You got wolves coming in, bite your legs off? Good luck with that. Figure it out. Start a government. You know, it doesn't jive with me, but that doesn't mean anything to you. I'm not trying to present science. I'm just presenting you with my essentially what my subconscious has built up for me with the information that I have right now that tends to lean against an intelligent being controlling our universe right now. Whether or not there's a God, that could be a whole nother story. That's burden of proof. Now, argument by question. Asking your opponent a question which does not have a snappy answer. I see this all the time. Do you guys see this? It's usually, they don't talk about it here, but it is usually used as a delay tactic. But what they're trying to do typically is catch you off balance. It's possible that this is what Katie Couric was doing. I don't know. She might have just been being a reporter. But she may have been trying to put her off balance, put Sarah Palin off balance. I don't know. But says, asking your opponent a certain question which does not have a snappy answer, or anyways, no snappy answer that the audience has the background to understand. Your opponent has a choice. He can look weak or he can look long-winded. And attorneys use this type of thing all the time. It's called a win-win for them. If they ask you a question that no matter what the answer you give, it's going to help their cause, then they've thought well. They've thought ahead of time. But it's also intentional. They don't care what your answer is. They're going to win either way. For example, how can scientists expect us to believe that anything as complex as a single living cell could have arisen as a result of random natural processes? Actually, pretty well, any question has this effect to some extent. It usually takes longer to answer the question than to ask it. Variants are the rhetorical question and the loaded question, such as, have you stopped beating your wife? Yeah, it's a good one. Argument by rhetorical question is the next one. Asking a question in a way that leads to a particular answer. For example, when are we going to give the old folks of this country the pension they deserve? The speaker is leading the audience to the answer. Because what do you want to answer? You want to answer right now. Alternatively, he could have said, when will we be able to afford a major increase in old age pensions? In that case, the answer he is aiming at is almost certainly not right now. Now he's giving you time to say, well, we need to make some adjustments, Social Security here and all that. Then we can do that. This is basically loading up a question to design an answer before the answer is even given. You see this with interviewers a lot, especially like somebody I saw using this a lot on the news when he had his show was Piers Morgan. very smart at the loaded question, trying to get that certain answer, and then he would discount anything that was outside of his line of questioning as if it were a courtroom and that was irrelevant, when really it was context for most people responding that didn't agree with him. So you've heard that one, fallacy of the general rule. This happens all the time, too. You got to get sick of seeing this stuff once you start to recognize it. Assuming that something true in general is true in every possible case. For example, all chairs have 4 legs, except that rocking chairs don't have any legs. And what is a one-legged shooting stick if it isn't a chair? Similarly, there are times when certain laws should be broken. For example, ambulances are allowed to break speed laws. Well, that's debatable. I don't think it's safe for ambulances to risk one accident to try to prevent someone else from dying. I think they should, unless it's wide open road, they should stick to the speed limits. That's a matter of opinion. Reductive fallacy, oversimplification. This one I see all the time. These top 10, oh my God. It's like I've had an overdose of these in my life. And when I see them, I just get, oh, there goes that one now. Reductive fallacy, oversimplifying. As Einstein said, everything should be made as simple as possible, but no simpler. Political slogans such as taxation is theft fall into this category. Oversimplification. You know, if I were on a presidential debate in anything, it doesn't have to be U.S. president, just a CEO, president, fucking anything, president of the debate club, and I saw this, I'd stop right there, because it happens all the time in interviews, especially tough interviews. When they want a yes or no. Do you see that a lot? If you don't see this a lot, I want you to watch a few episodes of Sean Hannity. I want you to watch a few episodes of Bill O'Reilly. Maybe a few episodes of some of the older Keith Olbermann shows, and these are left and right, and see how many times they say, why can't you give me a simple yes or no? People, when you're in that position and you know it's more complex than a yes or no, just say it. You're not going to look weak, you're going to look smart. Say, I can't answer yes or no because it's not a simple question, Bill. I'll talk about it with you, but there is no yes or no answer. Do you support so-and-so and so-and-so? I support it under these conditions, but not those conditions. That's not a yes or no. That's a let me explain. Okay? Now, politicians do that with about every damn question they get, don't they? They're not going to give you a yes or no, and they're going to do that on purpose, to be intentionally vague, to try to piss off as few people as possible, which is their ultimate goal. How else are you going to keep a constituency? You have to appeal to the most people possible. And there are some politicians out there that are genuine and don't care who they offend, and they usually have little runs. And then they find out that if you don't play the game, you don't win the game. Nobody appreciates you for being overly honest. Take a John McCain, who, though Apocalypse thinks he probably takes a paycheck here and there from the military-industrial complex, I think he's a pretty stand-up guy myself, and he runs on his principles, and that costs him. I think it costs him politically. It doesn't cost him with people like me. I like him. I like the way he thinks. And I don't know. I have a special place in my heart for military anyway, you know. And people that pick on the military, we went through this recently. Oh my God. I'm not even going there. Just, I would encourage the entire military, when this shit happens, to lay down their arms. Seriously, just stop. Stop defending the country. You will be getting your dick sucked so fast after that. When people realize that China has a watering mouth and Russia is starting the trucks up and the planes. Yeah. Now all of a sudden your military becomes rather important. And they're not going to feel that because we're always running out front, in first, badasses. And not everybody knows how to appreciate that. They just expect it. And I don't know, I guess you don't always know what you have till it's gone, you know, to throw a cliche out there. Let me stop back by and chat. I don't want to spend too much time in there because I do get diverted. See if you guys have anything applying to this that we need to talk about right now. Pen Pat's in the chat. Oh, that should be fun. I'm going to ignore what he says. Actually, I know that he'll come back in, but I'm just going to go ahead and block him for now. And we'll see. I mean, he'll probably be back in, but at least by blocking him, I got rid of those comments. So he'll have to write a bunch more, and then I'll block him again, and then I'll have to write a bunch more. I can do that a few times per show. Stabby says Debbie and Solution are a fountain of fallacies. Stabby, did you like the link that I shared? Are you going to fight Pimpet IRL? Yes or no? I don't know what IRL means. If you mean, will I kick his ass in person? Absolutely. But he's got to show up first. So, I don't know. So far, Mekazawa hasn't said anything real negative in there. I'll leave him in there. Maybe you can add to the conversation. We're talking about logical fallacies tonight. Stabby has just shared the link there if you'd like to follow along. And this is not a solve-all, end-all source here, this DonLindsay.com. I just happen to like this list of logical fallacies, and I think you'd be surprised how often you'll see these in your typical argument. It's almost like having Cliff's Notes, really. It's like learning body language. You're getting so much more out of the words being spoken than just what you used to get, if you understand this stuff. Some of you guys are probably already pretty... I got a feeling Stabby already knows most of this shit. I don't know about the rest of you guys because I don't know you that well. But at least it's review, and it's always good to stay up on your logical fallacy so you can recognize bad arguments. So we've done that. Genetic fallacy. This is a big one with... not just racist, it can come down to so many other things, but genetic fallacy, which is also called fallacy of origins or fallacy of virtue, is if an argument or arguer has some particular origin, the argument must be right or wrong. The idea is that things from that origin or that social class have virtue or lack virtue. Being poor or being rich may be held out as being virtuous. Therefore, the actual details of the argument can be overlooked, since correctness can be decided without any need to listen or think. So for those of you that are racist against blacks, let's go ahead and use that as an example. You see a black person come on TV and he's at a podium. How many of you just say, well, I don't have to listen to this? He's not going to know what the fuck he's talking about. Are you sure about that? Because that falls into this. This, you're making a decision. You haven't even given the guy a chance yet, and you're making your decision. I don't know. That's on you. I'm going to give him a chance. If Hitler showed up today and came up to a podium, I'd listen to what he had to say for a couple of minutes, and then I'd try to figure out where he was. And I'd have my own reasons for that. So we've talked about genetic fallacy. Here comes one of my favorites that is used way too often and is not noticed by most people, called psychogenetic fallacy. If you learn the psychological reasons why your opponent likes an argument, then he's biased, so his argument must be wrong. Guess what, folks? Just because someone likes their argument does not mean their argument is wrong. And just because someone hates an argument does not mean their opponent's argument is wrong. Rely on evidence for what you decide you're going to believe. That's what you need to do. I see this one all the time. Well, of course you support unions. You've got a brother that is in the upper echelons of the union administration. Wait a minute. Okay, maybe. And maybe for that reason he does want unions to win. But that should not affect the validity or invalidity of his argument. The evidence should affect that validity, and only the evidence. So that's important to distinguish between that. You see that one all the time. Here's one of my favorites just because of the name of it. Argument of the beard. Have you heard of this one? Assuming it's hard. This one's a little bit more difficult. It's not as simple as it sounds. Assuming that two ends of a spectrum are the same, since one can travel along the spectrum in very small steps, the name comes from the idea that being clean-shaven must be the same as having a big beard, since in between beards exist. Similarly, all piles of stones are small, since if you add one stone to a small pile of stones, it remains small. However, the existence of pink should not undermine the distinction between white and red. This is a kind of a it's all the same, it doesn't matter mentality on an issue. At least that's the way I describe this. But it's also deciding that you want to minimalize a point someone's making. I can't think of an example off the top of my head right now, but what it is it's a way of using circular reasoning to mute a point. They're saying, well, it's all the same because that eventually leads to this, or this used to be that, therefore that. Forget, I'm brushing it away. It's a wash. You can't do that. You have to give things validity based on what they are by themselves, not what they might become or could have been before. I've seen PolitiFact make a mistake when assigning